You're listening to A Radio.
Thank you for joining us. You're listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. You can find us on most social media platforms such as iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Go to our website, aradio.wordpress.com, for details, where you'll find more content and details on our podcasts. I just want you to listen to this clip from the Glenn Beck program, June 2. I will put a link on my site. This is a fairly long clip. Here it is.
Let me go to Elijah Schaefer, who has been down with these rioters for a long time. He's been following Antifa. And when you were up with Antifa and you were watching them beat people, et cetera, you told me at the time, Elijah, that the police would just mysteriously disappear. That's because the police chief and the mayor are for Antifa, seemingly. Are you seeing a difference between other protests and, for instance, the Dallas police as opposed to the Portland police?
Yeah, I think one interesting aspect, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but Andy Noah, a journalist, has talked to me about how, like, the mayor of Portland similarly is the police commissioner. And so some of these mayors have an uncanny amount of power and influence, as we just heard, over the police department, whether indirectly by directing anger from their populace towards them and misrepresenting them, or directly by telling them that they need to stand down and not do their jobs. But I have absolutely watched, not where that police were overrun in cities like Portland over the years. I watched as they've just begun to gain control. While I don't have a radio, I watched them answer calls, get back on their trucks, in their cars, and leave, and watch the protests and riots turn violent and the vandalism increase when they had the opportunity to stop it in its tracks.
So what is your take on this, Elijah? As you've watched these guys, I mean, it's really important for top-down, bottom-up, inside-out, that theory that I've been, explaining for the last 15 years, that you got to have people in power. This is the way they flipped countries to be communist. You have to have people who are communist in power, but they don't necessarily say they are. But they have enough control to where they can move the system. You have to control the attorney generals and the prosecutors. We know that George Soros has been doing that for a while now. And you have to have these uprisings in the streets. No one prosecuted, no one paying any price until the people just stand up and they say to the federal government, help us, nobody's helping us. And that's when you flip the country to a Marxist utopia. Does that sound too crazy at this point, Elijah?
No, it doesn't, Glenn. And I think what's really important for your listeners to understand is that I have been documenting groups like RevCom, Revolutionary Now, in Los Angeles for years. Just recently, I had them on camera. They're calling for a revolution in the streets. They are yelling and taunting, and they are completely calling on people to revolt. And, people laugh at me. Oh, why do you pay attention to this group? Why do you pay attention to that group? And I go, because they are literally calling for an attack on our country, internalizing it, and calling for violence in our streets. And I take people seriously that call for threats of violence in our streets. Well, it looks like they're not laughing anymore, because groups like that are working tirelessly in large cities like Los Angeles to wreak havoc, and they're getting at least the first taste of the revolution. And if we've seen this escalation in just the last couple of years, where the media laughed at me, mocked me, called me a propagandist for saying that these were viable threats, to now just 2 years later, they're saying, oh, actually, these people are burning down our cities. I wonder if the next step, as we're seeing in the protests last night and riots, that violence in just 3 days have escalated. So we went from 2 years to 3 days. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 24 hours?
So tell me what you know about the brick situation, because I've heard two stories on this, and we're close to some information that I hope to be releasing this week. But at this point, until I have that information, I don't know if it's just a coincidence and, Antifa happens to know where the construction site is. And so they say, hey, everybody meet here. But I've been around a while now, and most construction sites are fenced off. So you can't go steal a pallet of bricks, which is a lot of money. But these organizers are meeting at places where there's these pallets of bricks. And they appear to be part of a construction site, most of them. But is this a coincidence, or do you think this is coordinated?
That's a really important question, and I want to make sure I only speak to what I know here so that we don't conjecture. I went ahead and spoke to somebody who worked in bricklaying for quite some time, and they confirmed with me that construction sites do not leave bricks out, that they're a commodity that is often stolen. They're also completely sealed, often with wired bars when they're left, that continue to keep the package in place after it's brought off of a flatbed. But, Glenn, that night when I made the claim that it was organized, that people were leading people to pallets of bricks, I was mocked online and ridiculed as if maybe, just maybe, I wasn't trying to start a conspiracy. Maybe I was myself shocked to realize that somebody was looking to increase the violence and the vandalism. And I saw pallets of bricks in places where there was not construction, and I uploaded video footage of even protesters acknowledging in filming, like, oh, this is so fishy. I see this. There's no construction around here. These bricks are here. And there is footage right now online, and your audience can look it up, of right near protests, flatbeds of trucks just coming and just dropping off pallets of bricks the day of the protest, while there's cop cars all around. And that's what's most suspicious to me. Cop cars are there while a flatbed truck goes into a parking lot right next to the protest and drops off 2 giant pallets of bricks into the middle of a parking lot. I mean, if that doesn't breed suspicion in the eyes of any smart and intelligent American of why bricks were being dropped off in an inner city in front of officers while a riot is ensuing, then I don't know what would.
So that's what I wanted to play for you. You make your own mind up what you've just heard. I think it's clear. Biden thinks he sees an opportunity. However, I think he's going to be run over politically with a Trump steamroller. He and the Democrats are going to be exposed for their connections to these rioters, I have no doubt. And I think when they are exposed, liberals are going to run for the hills. And that's my comment. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, Spotify, and email. We're on Spotify under the podcast section. Type in Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass these links on to your friends. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com/A-Radio, EHRADIO, A-Radio. And please click on the like button. Join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 11:45 Eastern, and tell your friends and pass the word. We only tell the truth, not what the mainstream media want you to know.